What did Ender Wiggin teach me about leadership? Probably not what you think, but it's something you ought to think about. Stay tuned.
In a world of incompetent bosses, micromanagers, and petty tyrants, you are listening to The Leadersmith. Now, here is your host, Darren Gertis.
So there's this great movie called Ender's Game. It's based on a book by the same title that was written a few decades ago. So Ender's Game is this movie about a young boy in a future society where these interplanetary, the buggers, these are these big bug-like aliens, have destroyed much of the Earth in a previous battle, and the world is kind of united, geared against trying to fight these aliens. They're called the bugs or the buggers, and what they found was that as people age, they lose the creativity necessary to fight. So they have been drafting these children at younger and younger ages, and they find that they have the creativity. And this one child, his name is Ender, Ender, has this genius, this prodiginess of being able to adapt, and so they start to work him through a sequence of training exercises, and he goes off to this training academy and he excels at everything. He has everything stacked against him, but he learns these leadership lessons on and on. So for example, the colonel involved, who's overseeing the training, he's isolating Ender intentionally. He's saying, look, he must not have the any means of support, so he must have to stand on his own. And he's learning all these incremental leadership lessons. I'll give you another example. In his military training, for instance, he's threatened by bigger bullies. He stands his ground. He says, look, I don't want to fight. Please, I don't want to fight. And his attacker is bigger and stronger. They savagely start to beat him. And as he gets into the fight, he knocks this guy down. And then he knocks him down again. And then he kicks him. And then he just pummels the bully. And the other friends of the bully are like, whoa, what's going on? So he pummels him, and he's expecting to be expelled. And then when he's asked about it by the school officials, well, why did you do this? I mean, did you just really hate the guy? What was going on here? He says, look, knocking him down was the first fight. I wanted to win all the next ones too, so that they'd leave me alone. Wow, that was prescient. He was thinking strategically, and that's part and parcel of who Ender is and how he's operating. Ultimately, we get, and I'm not going to give away the plot and how it works, but ultimately he wins the big battle and saves the world. But that's not why it's important that you understand Ender's Game. Here's why. So at the end of the story, he wins the big battle, and I'm not going to give away spoilers, but there's a great scene midway through where he's talking about how he did it. And he wasn't trying to talk about how he did it because he hadn't done it yet. But he was talking to his sister Valentine, and he's trying to explain the concept, the conflicts that he's feeling about being involved in this. And he says, in the moment when I truly understand my enemy, understand him well enough to defeat him, then in that very moment I also love him. I think it's impossible to really understand somebody, what they want, what they believe, and not love them in the way that they love themselves. And then, in that very moment when I love them, I destroy them. I make it impossible for them to ever hurt me again. I grind them until they don't exist. Now, I'm not worried about the last part about the grinding and grinding. It's just the concept that to know your enemy so well that you love them, that you come to really appreciate them for how they think and feel, that's brilliant. Now, if that works for enemies, now, again, Ender Wiggin's a fictional story, but I think there's truth here. And if it works for enemies, why wouldn't it work for customers too? I mean, think about this. In marketing, they teach you to have an avatar of, this is what my customer is. And Oprah did this, right? Oprah had Sally Homemaker. That's who she spoke to. She spoke to Sally Homemaker, and in speaking to Sally Homemaker, she focused her show on the type of audience that she was trying to affect. My audience, I don't have Sally Homemaker or a moniker like that, but I'm speaking to young managers who want to improve. They don't have to be young, but most are the younger or new at managing, and they aren't interested so much in the perks of power. They're interested in the responsibility, the weight of leadership, trying to improve, trying to be better at being a leader. That's the type of person I'm speaking to. And I love those people. I spent the last decade speaking to those people in my MBA classes. It's the people that I teach, and I want them to be the kind of leaders that they can be. So if it works for enemies and it works for customers, why wouldn't it work for your followers? What if you applied this, that you know your followers, not the grind them until they don't exist part, but you really get to know your followers to the point that you actually love them. If you do that, you'll have such an amazing impact on your followers that it'll just be unbelievable. So let me leave you with this final story. When I was talking to a psychologist once, and he found out what I did. I found out what he did. And so he's just, we're making small talk. And he said, so that's interesting, leadership. So that's what you teach. So tell me, what's the best style of leadership? And I said, well, you're asking the wrong question. Now, this made sense for him to ask that question because in his world, if I asked what's the best style, I would be asking, are you Freudian or Rogerian or Jungian, or do you lean toward cognitive or behavioral type of theories? But so he's asking, am I, trait or LMX or path goal or one of those kind of theories. But I told him he's asking the wrong question. The wrong question is what style is the best style of leadership. The right question is, do you care? If you simply care, you'll do the kinds of things that are necessary to be a good leader. It'll just come reflexively. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about Ender Wiggin and what I learned from him. What I learned is love is so powerful. It's powerful enough that it's the key to unlocking and destroying your enemy. So it's just as powerful in dealing with your followers, and we should be thinking that way. So here's a quotation for contemplation. Actually, it's a series of quotations for contemplation this time, because as I was thinking about it, pondering, so what quote really goes along with this? Biblical passages just kept coming to my mind, and while I'm not trying to preach here, I'm not neither going to run from that I'm a evangelical Christian, and this is just as part and parcel of who I am. So I started to think of quotes that really applied here, like love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you or despitefully use you. No greater love has a man than that he lays his life down for his friends. When the lawyer comes to Christ and asks about the greatest commandment, he says, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Love is so powerful. And again, if it applies to enemies, if you can use it and apply it to your customers, why don't we use it and apply it to our followers and really care for them as we should? If we do care for them, we will find out that they're going to react in such a powerful and positive way that you'll be stunned that you haven't done it before. Thanks for your time. Listen, if you appreciate what we're talking about here, subscribe, tell others, listen to these podcasts. I make them daily, and I hope they're helpful to you. Thanks so much for your time. Bye-bye.